And this is Miss Humbert here. Sorry I couldn't be here today, so we're going to use this video to kind of talk over your quiz review so that you're ready to take your quiz shortly thereafter. So let's go ahead and take a look at number 1. So suppose you are trying to find your friend's house. There are 4 different highways, 5 different country roads, and 6 different streets that you can take. How many paths can you take? So all you're going to do is multiply all your different options. We have 4 different highways times 5 different country roads times 6 different streets. So when you multiply 4 times 5 times 6, you end up getting 120 different ways you could take to get to your friend's house. Okay, next, let's take a look at number 2. So for number 2, you're trying to make an ice cream sundae. You can choose between vanilla, chocolate, and mixed. Okay, that's 3 options for vanilla, chocolate, and mixed for my type of ice cream. Then you can choose between strawberry, fudge, chocolate, or caramel. Okay, I have 4 choices for my sauces. And then you can choose between 7 toppings. So then we have 3 times 4 times 7. And when you multiply all of those together, you get 84. So there's 84 different ways you can make a sundae or 84 different sundaes. I don't necessarily care how you label, I just care that you label it and that the label makes sense for the terms of the problem. Next, let's take a look at number 3. How many ways can you arrange the letters in the word Humbert? So we need to check 2 things. We need to check first how many letters we have, and second, do any of the letters repeat? So let's go ahead and check it. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So my last name has 7 letters in it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to write it out as 7 factorial. Well, since no letters are being repeated, we don't have to divide by anything. We can just straight do 7 factorial, which is 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And so then you're just going to punch that in your calculator. 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And when you do that, you get 5,040 different ways that you can arrange my last name. Again, please make sure you're labeling your answer. Okay, now let's take a look at number 4. Now we want to figure out how many different ways we can arrange the letters in the word Helgeson. First thing we check, how many letters do I have? I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So there's 8 letters. So I have 8 factorial on top. And then I want to divide by anything that's repeating. So I notice in Helgeson, there's 2 E's. So to account for the fact that there's 2 E's, I'm going to divide by 2 factorial. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at that. So we have 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1 up top. And then we need to divide by that 2 factorial. So when we divide by 2 factorial, that's just 2 times 1. So now I'm going to cross off what's left over. So then I'm going to cross off this, 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 and this. So then left over we have 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3. So when you multiply all of those together, you end up getting 20,160 different ways that you can arrange that last name. Now remember we had to divide by this 2 factorial here because of those E's being repeated. So if you have any repeated letter, you take the number of times it's repeated and divide by that factorial. All right, let's take a look at number 5. So here we need to use that permutation formula. So for the permutation formula, on top you have 8 factorial. On the bottom, you have 8 minus 5 factorial. So then you're going to have 8 factorial divided by 8 minus 5 factorial, which is 3 factorial. So let's go ahead and let's write those out. So we have 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Then we're going to divide that by our 3 factorial, which is going to be 3 times 2 times 1. So then we can go ahead and we can cross off our factorials. So cross those off and cross those off. So left over up top, I have 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply that out. So I have 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4. Okay, and then when you multiply that out, you end up getting 6,720. And we don't need to label it because we're just using that formula there. Okay, so next, let's go ahead and let's take a look at 4p3. So on top, we have our total factorial divided by our total minus 3 factorial. So then we have 4 factorial on top. This is really slow. 4 factorial divided by 1 factorial. Well, 1 factorial is really just 1. So really all this is 4 factorial, which is 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So in your calculator, you can type 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And when you do that, you end up getting 24. Next, let's take a look at number 7. So for number 7, it says the worker at Hollister to set up rows of mannequins in the display window. She has 7 mannequins, so that's our total mannequins, but only 3 fit in the window. How many ways can she arrange these mannequins? So we have 7, but we're only going to pick 3 of them. So then we're going to do 7p3. So on top, we have 7 factorial. On the bottom, we have 7 minus 3 factorial. So let's go ahead and let's take a look. So we have 7 factorial divided by 4 factorial. So now I'm going to go ahead and write that out so I can cross off what I need to. So then I'm going to have 7 factorial, which is 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And then on the bottom, I'm going to have 4 factorial, which is 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. So then I'm going to cross off what's left over. So cross off the 4, the 3, the 2, and the 1. And then left up top is 7 times 6 times 5. So 7 times 6 times 5. When you multiply all of those together, you get 720. And we're going to label that ways. So there's 720 different ways. Oh, I'm sorry, 210. Oh my goodness. 210. That was my fault. I looked at the wrong problem. Let me use my eraser. Nope. Okay. So it's going to be 210 ways. My smartboard hates me right now. It's very sad. Okay, let's take a look at number 8. So the finalists from Mr. Farmington could finish. A gold, a silver, and a bronze were awarded. All right, so there's 10 total, but there's only gold, silver, and bronze, which is 3 positions. So there's only 3 positions they could win. So we're starting off, we have 10 factorial on top. Then on the bottom, we have 10 minus 3, and then factorial. So we have 10 factorial divided by 7 factorial. So let's go ahead and let's write that out. So on top we have 10 times 9 times 8 times 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. Then on the bottom I have 7 times 6 times 5 times 4 times 3 times 2 times 1. And so I'm just going to cross off my numbers now that are overlapping. So we're going to let that finish out here. Good. So then we have 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1 canceling out. So then I'm left with 10 times 9 times 8. Then this one is 720. So there's 720 different ways that those Mr. Farmington candidates could finish. All right, last but not least, let's take a look at number 9. So for number 9, where'd it go? For number 9, you have 2x plus 5 is equal to 13. So all you're doing is solving that equation. So first thing I need to do is get that plus 5 over to the other side. So I'm going to subtract 5 from both sides. Then I get that 2x is equal to 8. That 2 is being multiplied by the x. So to get it over to the other side, I'm going to divide both sides by 2. And then I get that x is equal to 4. So that's my final answer for number 9, is that x is equal to 4. Now let's take a look at number 10. So for number 10, we have 2x plus 7 is less than 3x minus 2. So I like to make life easier on myself. Okay, so to make life easier on myself, what I do is I want to take the smaller amount of x's and bring it over to the larger amount. So I see that 2x is my smaller amount of x's. So to get it over to the other side, I'm going to subtract 2x. So then I get 7 is less than x minus 2. So then I need to get that minus 2 over to the other side. So I'm going to go ahead and add 2 to both sides, and then I get 9 is less than x. Or I could write that as x is greater than 9. Now remember, if you happen to have a negative x and you divide by a negative number, you have to flip that inequality symbol. Okay, so make sure you're paying attention to which way that inequality symbol goes, and also students tend to turn it into an equal sign. Make sure you have your inequality sign still there. So that concludes your note video. You can go ahead and get your quiz when you're done. Thanks for listening.